Every society, every rich individual or rich individual always attempt to get one form of business or investment or another. And as an individual as well, whether you are in this category of what, of the rich or the wealthy ones, you should aspire to attain this level as well so that you can actually be able to increase your wealth. Now, there's a difference or distinction between being wealthy and being rich. When you say an individual is actually rich, it means that that individual can be able to afford his basic things at one particular time or the other without actually straining his money. Then, when you say that an individual is actually wealthy, it means that that individual is no longer spending the money because at that point in time, the money is actually working for him. There are secrets to investment, there are secrets to wealth, there are secrets to affluence, there are secrets to making money in the society. And that is why it is very imperative or important that you have what I call financial education. Education. So this investment are the top secret of wealthy people that actually keeps them afloat in every society. And that is why this topic is very important for you. And I actually recommend that you watch this topic from the beginning to the end. You watch the video from the beginning to the end. Welcome to another segment of intellectual brainstorming and academic excellence, where we discuss on how to make money and become rich in society, and also share knowledge about educational perspective with each other. My YouTube videos are all over my channels where you can actually watch either on educational perspective or on financial perspective. Now let us continue what we're discussing. So remember, the wealthy ones are they constitute what I call the minority in society. They are not many, and they are able to maintain their status in society because why? They have investment, they have what's actually working for them and generating money for them. And this is what I'm going to discuss about today. The secrets, what they actually do that makes them to be very wealthy, that makes them to stay afloat at all point in time when others are actually struggling and not making ends meet for them, or where the society, the gap between the rich and the poor keeps expanding every time. And unfortunately, we a lot of people have not been able to close this gap because they do not have the secret to what we call financial education. So this investment are what I'm going to discuss now, which is number one. We have what we call the hard asset. I have what I call paper asset. Then I have what we call protective asset. Then I have what I call speculative asset. Now I'm going to pick them one after the other so that I can be able to understand what I'm actually talking about. What are the asset? Hard assets are those things that you can actually see, you can feel, you can actually touch. There are something like a rental properties. The second one, which is called a paper asset, and those things that actually belongs to what we call the stock markets, like Nasdaq, Dow Jones, S&P 500, ETFs, equity trust fund, index funds, mutual funds, and the rest of them. Then when you talk about protective assets, you talk about physical gold. You understand now? Physical gold. Then when you talk about what we call a speculative asset, speculative asset are startups. What you can actually use to do what we call a startup, or you want to start a business. So there are all four of them. Number one is what we call hard asset, paper asset, protective asset, and what I call a speculative asset. So I'm going to take them one after the other so that I can actually understand what is the secret that is being used by the wealthy people that makes them to stay afloat at the end of the day. So let's start with the number one, which is what I call protective asset. Now, I will use dollar as my point of analysis or explanation in this perspective because you know dollar denomination or currency is actually used as a medium of world exchange in terms of business transaction and the transnational trade among countries of the world, even among individuals. So when you talk about protective assets, the period between 1917 and 1971 actually changed the way money actually worked. You see, in 1913, the monetary system was changed in the United States. This was the period the Federal Reserve Bank in US was actually created. And when you talk about the Federal Reserve Bank in the United States, you're talking about the bank that's responsible for the printing of what of currencies in the United States. Then in 1971, dollar was taken from the gold standard, which changed what money was actually at that particular period of time. So it was actually separated from the gold standard. Gold is actually a hedge. It's a physical commodity that you can actually see and feel, and it can actually be sold. Now, what am I trying to say here? You see, if you notice among the rich or wealthy people in the society, a lot of them will always buy gold and store them. They always buy gold and store them. Do you ask yourself the question, why do they buy gold and store them? The reason why they are buying gold and storing them is because gold always appreciates in value. It's a medium of what? Of creating wealth for yourself. Like someone like Whiskey or Davido, some of you will say, yeah, man, they are flaunting gold every time. They are not actually flaunting gold. What they are doing there is that they're actually storing that gold because gold will appreciate over a period of time. By the time they will sell it, they will make more gains for themselves. So gold will always appreciate, and that's why mostly the wealthy class or the rich people, the elite society, always buy gold. So it can be used to also to generate money. It is actually a way or perspective of saving money for what I call doomsday day. What do I mean by doomsday? Doomsday is actually a period where you can be broke at any time, where you have to need money, where you need to facilitate one transaction or what, or exchange with what with financial means. And that is why gold is actually stored by these people, and they are actually sold to generate wealth for themselves when they actually need their money. So one of the ways through which they actually create wealth for themselves is through what we call protective asset. So when they buy the gold, when they store the gold, it will always protect them in the future when they needed their money. So it's actually a way of saving, hard-earned money because gold will always appreciate over a period of time, and it has what I call a buying power because of its level of appreciation. So therefore, the wealthy class invest some percentage of their portfolio investment on what on their gold. So if you actually want to create wealth for yourself, then you should start investing in the gold because gold will always appreciate over time. So that when the doomsday come or when you need money, you can actually sell your gold and make more money for yourself. Two is what I call the hard asset. A lot of wealthy people, apart from the fact that they build their personal house, they also invest in what we call a hard asset. So a lot of wealthy people invest on real estate or what or hard asset. Sometimes they rent out to other people. You understand? Now they rent out to other people. For example, some of them will build houses where they rent it out to other people and they generate money for themselves. And what are these properties that they can actually rent out to other people? We have what we call single homes, apartment complex. We have what we call office building, storage facilities, and rental building. All these things actually generate money for the wealthy class. So apart from the fact that you are investing on gold, you can also invest in what we call a hard asset. So when you buy the properties, you own the properties. So it's a hard asset because you can see, you can feel, and you can also touch it. And it can also use it as a medium of generating money or income for yourself. So the revenue generated should be able to cover for what we call property tax. So what I'm saying is that if you acquire that property or you have that hard asset that's generating money for you, you should be able to cover for your property asset. You should be able to cover for your insurance. You should be able to cover for your maintenance fee. You should be able to cover for what they call the management fees, vacancy cost, mortgage, and also put some money in your pocket. So hard asset is the medium through which the rich make themselves to be more richer and more richer over time. And that is an edge, that's one of their secret to wealth creation. So it's either you take protective asset or you take a hard asset. But if you can do the two together, I can bet you that are going to belong to the category of the wealthy in the society. Hard assets always appreciate over a period of time. I can remember when I first bought my land at that particular point in time, since some years back, before I started building the property, I bought it at a particular price. But today now, that price has actually skyrocketed drastically, astronomically today now. So if you want to buy land now, you will spend a lot of money compared to 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago. So land, hard asset always appreciate over time. It always appreciates. And that is why the rich will always invest on their hard asset. Then the third one is what I call a paper asset. The rich actually also invest their money on paper assets. This includes investing your money on the what I call a stock market. Stock market. So when you talk about paper assets, you are referring to the stock market. Now, what is the stock market? Stock market is where people do business, where they do business, they buy assets, they sell asset. They buy asset and sell asset in a layman form. So they buy asset and they sell asset, but it's more than that. But time will not permit me to discuss more about it. So when you actually invest your money in the stock market, you are actually a co-owner of the company, a co-owner of the company, in where you actually receive what we call dividend or what or profit at the end of the day, because you are part of the co-owners of the company. So you are paid dividend or profit at the end of the day, or you are paid interest at the end of the day. Remember, the stock market is a very wide, complex, and complicated thing that if you don't have financial education, you might not be able to navigate through very, very well, and you may end up losing your money. And that's why you need a financial advisor that can actually advise you on where you can actually put your money when it comes to the stock market. So when you are a co-owner of a company in the stock market, you save yourself a lot of stress of operating the business. So as a co-owner, you are not in the area of operation, but your money is actually what put in the form of investment in the company, where you actually generate a dividend or interest or profit for yourself at the end of the day. So you can invest in the dividend or individual companies. You can invest in individual companies, but if you are not financially educated, I would advise that you don't invest in individual companies, because number one, why I always advise people on that is because that individual company can collapse or go into bankruptcy at any point in time. For example, now maybe you invest your money in McDonald's, or you invest your money in Alibaba, or you invest your money in Facebook or Google or Vanguard or Blackpool or any of these investment or companies, and invest your money there individually, and any of them actually what runs into bankruptcy, or the companies actually what goes into decline, or the companies actually closes up, you may likely lose your money at the end of the day. So please, this is a financial advice coming out from me. So don't invest your money in individual company, because it is very, very dangerous. If the company goes down, you lose your money at the end of the day. But you can actually invest your money what in funds where you have a conglomeration of different companies in one particular fund. For example, the S&P 500 is a very good example of what I'm talking about here. The S&P 500 is actually the most powerful, the most largest 500 companies in the United States. Now, imagine you invest your money in what in S&P 500, where you have 500 companies. So if one of them actually goes into bankruptcy, it does not affect the 499, because that one will be replaced by another company. So it is more advisable that you invest your money in what in funds and not individual companies. And there are different types of funds, namely what we call a equity trust fund, that's ETFs, you have mutual funds, you have index funds, and you have a lot of things. So you can invest in funds that will give you exposure to the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones or the Nasdaq, or mutual funds or index funds or equity trust funds or rental estate and the rest of them. They are all funds. And each of them have what specialization or varieties. It can be in the area of defense, it can be in the area of food, it can be in the area of medical, it can be in the area of pharmaceutical, it can be in the area of education, it can be in the area of tourism and the rest of them. But they're always generating money at the end of the day. So S&P 500, Dow Jones, Nasdaq, mutual funds, index funds, equity trust funds, and rest, ETFs and rest of them, and rental estates, they're all part of these ones that we're talking about here. Now, let us talk about the next one, which is what I call speculative asset. Speculative asset is what can actually make you a lot of money, and can actually make it to lose a lot of money. Now, one of the barometers or indices that can be used to actually measure a company is that if your company can actually be able to, you know, exist for the next 3 to 5 years, there's every possibility that company will actually survive. But most companies discover that after they have actually been created or established, it takes maybe after a year, most of them will always collapse, or they will go into bankruptcy, and they will die like that. So speculative asset is something that will require a lot of of ideas, a lot of time, dedication, hard work, and commitment to it. So if you don't have that idea about speculative asset where you can start up your own business, you don't have a business idea, because most people they always copy their friends. My friend is into this, I will do the same thing. But do you have an idea? Do you have the information? Do you have the financial education regarding to what you actually want to start as a business? If you don't have idea, there's every likelihood that business will collapse. So you must have an idea about the business you want to do before putting your money into that business, because there's every probability that the business may not survive, and there's also higher percentage that the business will actually survive. So there are two types of speculative assets. I call it number one, startups. speculative asset or cryptocurrency. But I will not go into details of cryptocurrency because I am not actually engaging with in cryptocurrency. But startup business, it is something that you can actually do by yourself. Where you can what you can drop your feasibility studies and the rest of them, and drop a line on the kind of business that you want to do and how you want to go about it. But don't forget that before you can start the business, it must be something that is needed in that area or that community or that landscape. It is not something that is needed by that area or landscape. Don't go into it because there's every probability that you're going to lose your money. So before you go into a business, you must look for a market, you must look for the capital, you must look for the manpower, you must look for the locality where you can have a high demand for that product or services that you want to render to the people. So speculative business can actually grow and it can actually crash within a short period of time. The beauty of startup business is that if you're able to grow up the business for a period of time and because the business has been able to grow for a period of time, you can actually decide to sell off the business and make more money for yourself. And that's what most people do. When they start up the business and the business has actually grown up to a particular stage, they usually sell it off. Like I remember when there was a report I read that some guys actually wanted to buy, Mr. Beast YouTube channel from him for I think about $10 million, just a channel for $10 million. Mr. Beast actually started from somewhere from maybe from $0, and look at him now, he's one of the richest in the world. But he told them that he cannot sell that channel for $10 million because the value of that business or that channel is more than $20 million. And he told them that if they cannot buy it for $20 million, he will not sell that business for 20 for $10 million because he was confident of what he was saying, and he was confident of the fact that he used to make more money than $10 million per annum on his YouTube channel. And today he has so many channels, about 4 or 5 channels that is operating on that YouTube, and is making millions of dollars every month. So think about it. So a startup business, you need to have an idea of what you want to do because it involves a lot of risks and it needs what we call financial education. Now, I will give a bonus here before I actually round up. Most people will say, can I actually diversify when I'm going into what? Into investment portfolio? No. You need to focus on what I call foundational investment. Foundational investment. Where people get it wrong is that they always want to, use one stone to kill like 100 birds at the same time because of lack of education, because of lack of financial education, because of greed and selfish and egocentric sentiment. That is not the way wealth actually works. Number one, you need to focus on a foundational investment. When you are able to focus on a foundational investment, that is when you can now work. And that foundational investment has actually grown over time. That's why that is when you can now diversify your portfolio investment by diversifying into agriculture, into mutual funds, into index funds, into equity funds, into rental estate, into S&P 500 or Dow Jones or what, or Nasdaq or any of them. Do you get it now? So you need to start up what we call a foundational investment. Build the foundation first, and if you are able to grow the foundation over a period of time, then you cannot diversify your portfolio investment. Through that, you can make a wealth for yourself. So I believe that you have actually gained a lot of things today based on what I've actually discussed. Don't forget that we actually discussed what we call a hard asset, paper asset, protective asset, and speculative asset. And I've actually explained each of them by what I mean by that. So this is the secret. This is what makes the rich to be very rich, to be very superfluous, to be very affluent, to be very wealthy in society, and makes the poor to remain poor and perpetually poor because of their level of financial education. So if you want to make wealth, if you want to become rich, you need financial education because when you have financial education, it will widen your horizon and widen your knowledge about what? About investment and how you can make money in a capitalist world. Because the system of economy that we're operating in Nigeria now is what we call capitalism. And you need capitalism to be able to prosper and grow effectively in this economic system. So that money you're earning, don't forget, don't spend everything. Split your money into three parts: into spending, into savings, into investment. Investment, you don't touch it. And make up your mind that you're going to invest your money for a minimum of 10 years. Maybe you're putting 50,000 every month. And don't forget that now, most of these investment portfolio mutual funds are paying about 20% compound interest per annum now. So if you put, for example, 1 million naira in a year, you will get 1.2 million naira because they compound interest. So you get 1,200,000 plus at the end of the year. So what who can give you that in a bank? What business can you do that can give you that amount of money when you invest your money directly or you are directly involved? You know the how the system operates in Nigeria now that if you are not, directly involved in that business, there's every probability that they will bankrupt the business for you because people are very egocentric, they are very self-centered, they are very selfish. It's all about themselves. They have this, high level of velocity for embezzlement and personal aggrandizement. You get it now. So to avoid this, if you don't have the time where you can dedicate your time, your hour, your energy, your financial means and everything into that business, then it is time you actually invest your money and watch your money and your wealth grow over for you over a particular period of time. So most mutual funds now they are paying 20% and more for what? For compounded interest on investment portfolio. So it's either you are an active investor or a passive investor. But I will always advise my fans or my subscribers to go for a passive investor where you don't have to stress yourself, but you get what we call a compound interest at the end of the year for your investment in your investment portfolio. So I've discussed so much today on hard assets, paper assets, protective assets, speculative assets, and other forms of assets where you can actually make more money for yourself. And I can guarantee if you put money into what into any of this, you will never regret it. Hard asset, don't forget, you can see, you can feel, you can touch it. Rental properties, paper assets, stock market. You can invest your money in what in an indirect form into what into index funds, into ETFs or into what we call mutual funds. Protective asset, you can buy gold and what and keep it. So that when the value of what gold actually increases, you can sell it and make millions for yourself. Then speculative asset, you can go into cryptocurrency or you can go into what we call the startup business as an entrepreneur. But be sure that you have financial education before you start up any business so that you will not regret it and your money will not go into the drain. So I believe you have actually gained something today. If I've actually gained something from my discussion to my video, please subscribe to my channel. Till I meet you next time, I remain your loyal, humble, pragmatic, innovative, inventive, resourceful, diligent David Oni. So my returning subscriber, I say a very big thank you. God bless you all. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe now and God bless you also. Thank you. God bless Lagos State. God bless Nigeria. God bless the world.